Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Yak number 130 for July 29th, 2021. My goodness. It's the end of July already. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Excellent. Anything interesting going on in your neck of the woods, fellas?
I streamed two times this week.
But Steve, you had some worse stuff, I think, right now.
Well, I'm sorry. What did you say, Jay?
I streamed 2 times this week.
And yes, that was
I think that's a record.
from the guy who said, I don't stream, he said.
I blame certain
And they were fun. They were fun.
Blames me.
Yes, no, they were enjoyable streams.
Yeah, I think a few of our Yak followers were watching you, Jay, and encouraging you, huh?
Oh, yeah. Of course they were.
Yeah, and I was using Stream Duck. So at some point I was done streaming, so I just picked 2 people at random in the chat, said, hey, join the fun. Sent them the link, and they came in. I think it was Starbuck Tech and Dave.
Yep.
So that was fun. I like this software.
Well, we were trying to get it to your 3 hours. That was the whole goal.
Did I make it there?
Yes, you
I
did.
did, right? Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, time just flies.
It does.
Yeah,
What about you, Bruce? Were you up to anything this week?
I not so much during the week, but last weekend I started on Kai's Classic Reloaded, Macintosh Classic Reloaded. I had quite a few people watching that, so that I completely and totally assembled one side of the board, and I plan to complete that this weekend. Probably not tomorrow, but the day after. I will be finishing the other side of the Macintosh Classic and testing it. So anyone who's watching, who's interested to see whether Kai's Classic Reloaded board works, we will be finding out in a couple of days' time.
That's right, because you're the guinea pig there.
Yeah, that's right.
I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted you to muscle through somehow. I knew it wasn't possible, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was about 4 hours. I think I streamed that day.
It's one of your longest.
Yeah, definitely one of my longest. But yes, that was it was a lot of fun. And look, I had sort of 70 to 80 viewers for most of the live stream, so it's just an indicator that there's interest in this sort of thing. People did like watching it get made, and are obviously looking forward to seeing whether it works out. So,
well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm glad I'm not the first.
Well, I may or may not be glad. Okay, we'll find that out in a couple of days' time.
Because if I put that all together and it didn't work, I doubt what I did. What did I do? But I have more confidence in you than I do of my own skills.
Well, I can tell you, if it doesn't work, I will be down in my own work as well. I promise you that. There are lots and lots of bits and pieces putting on that board. I feel reasonably confident that I've been doing it all correctly, but we'll see how it goes. So
excellent.
Yeah, bit of fun.
And GT, were you doing anything this week?
I'm going to set the bar lower.
No.
Sorry. I told Bruce that if we dip under 60 viewers, you're free to go. And we kind of hovered 60, stayed at 70, and then we hit 59. Like, damn it. So next weekend, I'm going to say, if we dip under 10, you can go.
So he'll be there forever.
That'll never happen, I don't think.
No, probably not. Yeah.
So, GT, were you doing anything exciting this week?
I think, did I do that Mac
the iMac?
I got?
I think that was
was this week.
It was this week? Yeah, okay. That didn't work, so it's
that was a GPU one?
Yeah, it's got a bad GPU probably, so I gotta do some work on it. But it's off over there in the corner right now.
Send it to Grudy. Let him worry about it.
Yeah.
It's funny because he has a radio and another iMac 27-inch 2011 that's he paid for. It's still sitting here, so good luck. I think it's going to sit here longer than the stuff set at Jay's house.
If that's any indication. But all right, cool. So let's. We don't really have any news to cover that was of note. But we have our first topic here, which is what Macintosh computers should you just not bother repairing?
Sorry.
And what are specific machines that are basically a pain in the butt to service? A lot of these come to mind, but we were talking about this the other day and thought this would be a fun topic to discuss. And Bruce is pointing to, what is that, a little lonely iBook clamshell? No, those hard drives are easy to get out with the Dremel.
One thing that I will say is, and I've got a little laptop here to demonstrate it. Here is what is this? This is the one that has USB but no SCSI. So whatever model this is, I think it's the bronze keyboard. Yeah. Is it Pismo possibly? Yeah. So anyhow, one of the things that I love that Apple sort of brought in at this stage was this little removable keyboard, that you have the little clips here and the keyboard comes down and then you have access in here to your hard drive, your RAM, your airport card. This was a really, really nice, innovative thing to do. Sort of to make these things accessible for upgrade and stuff like that. For most people, accessing those are the only things they're ever going to need to access.
Was that before or after Steve Jobs?
It's G3, isn't it? So it would definitely be post Jobs. So
yeah.
Okay.
At least the portable, yeah.
Yeah. So and then of course they kept that going here. Where I've got a titanium. And with very sticky, and this is the same. This is one that has this removable keyboard. They're kind of held down with magnets, but you can just clip them open, and then you've got access to the RAM in there, and you've got access to the RAM, and
that's right, because the airport card's on the left,
the RAM.
right?
Yeah, don't forget the RAM.
Yes. Having said that, if you do need to access the hard drive here, all you have to do is take the bottom off. That's a fairly straightforward thing. You just undo a few screws and take this bottom case off here. So even there, not too bad if you wanted to upgrade your own hard drive. But then, of course, we talk about the clamshell. Now, the clamshell, of course, is a very pretty Mac, and it does have access to the RAM relatively easily, I think, from memory.
Yeah, so if you take off the keyboard, there's a little spot, a little metal tray, and if you have an airport card installed, it's going to be on top of that tray. If you don't, the tray is just going to be blank, but you take out, I think, 1 or 2 screws from this little holder that's under the keyboard, and the memory socket is right there. There's only one slot, but it's right there.
But if, on the other hand, you wanted to replace the hard drive, I would probably refer to Canadian computer collector. Dan recently did a video where he completely and totally dismantled one of these and put it back together, and you can get a pretty clear indication. And of course, I think there are quite a few videos by Greg Rutke from Rutke Mods where he's sort of opening those things up. They are an absolute nightmare if you're wanting to replace the hard drive. Someone did come up with a novel solution, and they basically just cut a hole in the front of the case. So hard drive, nice and easy to swap out.
Yeah, I took one apart in, was it 2004, 2005? I have not had the desire to do it again.
Yeah, I've done it once for that one.
Oh, yeah?
I'll tell you one of my nightmare ones, and I hate doing it. I mean, and it's a newer Mac. It's any of the newer iMacs, the skinny ones, because they made it impossible to get into unless you have to cut, basically through the adhesive. And once you get that off,
so the adhesive around that attaches the screen to
all 4 sides have adhesive on it. Once you get it off the 3 sides, the bottom comes off pretty easy because you can tilt it down and it comes off. But you got to be very, very careful because you can crack the glass if you try to do it too fast. So you have to kind of they make a special pizza cutter wheel, I guess is what they call it, to cut through it.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's like a little plastic one.
Yeah, iFixit has a little tool that they made specifically for that. But that to me is probably one of the worst designs as far as repairability goes.
So, I mean, I think we can fairly safely say that the newer the Mac gets, the harder it gets to go in and service things. We know that. But here's the thing. I mean, if we look at this from the perspective of what the topic is saying, is it worth it? Now, if we're talking about a new iMac, it's worth it to go to all the hassle of removing the glass and everything. But is there a model, is there a particular computer that is such a pain to work on that if someone gives one to you, you're just going to go, no, it is not worth repairing?
The white polycarbonate MacBook, because those are a pain. Yes,
this the one with the FireWire port.
This is the unibody one. You're talking about the earlier ones, aren't you?
The ones that you have to go around it to get it to pop up after you take all the screws out and still clamped in.
See, when those were fairly new GT, I didn't really have a problem doing those. But as everything ages in that machine, you'd be very, very hard pressed to get the top case, which includes the keyboard, off without either breaking or just shattering those little clips that are holding in the left and the right side of the assembly there to the top case to what's on the bottom. It is just one of those things where you could snap either the supports or the edges of the plastic will just snap off.
Yeah, I mean, once they went to the aluminum MacBooks, it actually made it easier.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
I actually think the unibody aluminium Macs are incredibly easy to work on. I mean, in terms of just undoing a few screws, taking the back panel off. If you need to get the logic board out, if you need to, I mean, I've swapped over a display yesterday. I mean, they're okay. Yes, the screws to undo and everything like that, but really they are actually put together incredibly well in terms of accessibility, accessing the battery, the hard drive, the RAM, the logic board. You know, I mean, they're beautifully made, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I want to touch on what Apple's Anonymous is mentioning, because I had a PowerBook 12-inch that unfortunately had an unlikely and untimely demise. Words are hard. And essentially, it just stopped working. There was some condensation. In hindsight, I shouldn't have left it in the car, etc. It was cold out. But the whole thing just died. And taking that machine apart is something I never want to have to do again. Because to get that 12-inch PowerBook packed with what they put in there, I mean, anything other than replacing maybe the hard drive or the memory, you have to take the entire machine apart. And as he's mentioning there, if you want to get to the optical drive, you basically have to take out the entire machine. And it's not fun because all different screw sizes, everything looks like it belongs in a different spot. You have to really take note of what you're doing and how you're taking things apart.
And that's actually a fairly good point. When it does come to working on these things, it's important to have a bit of a strategy, have a bit of a plan. Jay, during his live stream recently, showed that he uses these little compartment things. They're the same as what I use. They're little plastic boxes with little dividers in them. And he actually went to the length of going in and labeling each section to show what screw goes where. I've never done it that way. What I've always done is I've just put them in order of disassembly. And then when I reassemble back in the same order that I disassemble. Because obviously a lot of these things, you can use an iFixit guide, a lot of these Macs. And so if you just follow the steps of the iFixit guide, you know what order those screws all come out in, and then you just put them back in the reverse order. That's a very handy way of doing it, so I think for anyone who's wanting to pull these things apart. But one of the special mentions I'd like to make is this is the unibody, sorry about the flare, this is the unibody plastic MacBook. So these actually not a bad looking machine, I find, with these. I don't mind these much at all. The rounded edges and everything. They do have sometimes issues with this rubber sort of peeling away. But an interesting thing about this is, although it's a unibody and it's almost like a plastic version of the aluminium one of the big differences is this keyboard is actually kind of plastic welded onto the underside, onto the top case. And if you're dealing with, say, like a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, and you need to replace the keyboard, which is a common thing because they're generally the first in line if there's a liquid spill, and those keyboards tend to go. You could, of course, just get a whole new top case, but if you want to save a few dollars, you can just replace the keyboard, and that involves undoing about 100 screws, little tiny screws, and then screwing them back in. I find it quite therapeutic doing that, so I don't actually mind that at all.
I think Rudy did that in one of his videos.
I mean, it's a good idea to do a little bit of fast motion when you do that. But with this one here, when you go to remove that keyboard, you've actually got to virtually tear it off, and you break all of these little sort of plastic weld bits. And although you can actually, and I have done this, put a replacement keyboard in there if you are prepared to drill little holes in the plastic for all of the new screws, which I have done once. You're better off with these just getting a whole new top case rather than just the keyboard. You can buy the keyboard separately, but replacing it. I mean, to be honest, with a lot of these now, if they came to me with these sorts of problems, it's just like there's really little point in even bothering.
Yeah.
Not a bad one to get there working. But.
Yeah, I didn't know about the keyboards. That's frustrating.
I have to mute myself. Those white MacBooks, I hate them with a passion. Not so much as the first gen design with the top case splitting off by the palm rest and stuff. But I should say those white MacBooks are great for kids. They are great. Good luck trying to destroy one. They are virtually bulletproof.
Yeah.
Well, I still use one for my Xserve to control it and stuff because I run an older operating system on it, and because the Xserve, control software, the Xserve RAID control software requires an older operating system because I can't use it on anything modern. It just doesn't work, and so I use one of those specifically for that, and also my radio programming because it's perfect for that. Because
you do ham radio, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I gave one of those white MacBooks to my kid a year ago. Said, "This is your first laptop. Show me that you could treat it with respect and not spill stuff on it and destroy it." And he took better care of it than I do of my computers. So it definitely worked. But if he hadn't, it still would have survived probably.
There is, I think, also a special mention for the old G3 bubble iMacs. They're not a lot of fun to get inside. Okay, if the parts that are readily accessible, like the RAM and stuff like that, that's great. But even just replacing the hard drive on those requires a fairly significant amount of disassembly. And should you need to get into, the logic board or the power supply or anything like that, they're a real headache to get to. I've got one in pieces.
Yeah.
Here. Does anyone want it?
There's certainly one of the project machines where you put it on your desk and don't expect to get that desk space back until you're done with it. Because, I mean, the tray loading ones, thankfully, if you remove the bottom, the whole thing comes out with the logic board on a tray. So you can make, your upgrade to the hard drive or whatever and slide it back in and you're fine. But one step further on, I think it's both the tray loading and the slot loadings. I only have experience taking apart the slot loading one because Mike gave me a lime green iMac slot load, and it was so dusty inside of it that I thought it was the cause of the CRT arcing and shorting itself out and stuff like that. So I had to take the green part that is a bubble around the screen off, and that's not easy because you have to take the front off, you have to do all this stuff, and I wanted to get it off to dust it out and everything like that, and I still haven't put that together again. And that I took that apart maybe a year and a half ago. And
everyone should have one in their room in pieces.
It's just one of those things where and all the plastic broke as I'm taking apart all that lovely colored green plastic, those little hooks that snap it into the display, all of that went to pieces because these things are so brittle. So it's like, I'm trying to take it apart to clean it to get it working again, and it's like snap, 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 snap. So fun times.
All right, so is my microphone working better now?
Yeah,
what?
That sounds good.
Louder. Yep.
Okay, because I was actually, for some reason, it selected my webcam mic and not
the sounded fine to me.
In Apple's defense, though, most of the machines we're talking about are from a time where the case and all the structural parts inside were plastic, and you have to do a lot more. I mean, you can hold a MacBook Pro together with one screw because it's all aluminum, the frame, the body, everything. But with the plastics, you need a lot more screws, a lot more screw posts and cross beams and whatever to make that happen. So I don't blame Apple really, but it is annoying to take apart.
Yeah, and a runner-up I would say is the logic boards of an LC, LC2 or LC3, because just sliding that out, you're going to probably crack the plastic little latches that hold that in, which it's not the end of the world. If you do it, you could affix it in there, but it's just one of those things. And obviously the little plastic tabs on the hood of it, when you're trying to open it up, that on that machine, the Quadracentrus 600 series and the PowerMac 6100 series, it's just like you have to pry those open very carefully or they're just going to snap off these days.
Of course, there are some notable exceptions to these sort of nightmares. I mean, we look at things like the G3 tower or the G4 tower. All those ones with the side opening access to the logic board. I mean, they're absolutely wonderful. I mean, they're so much easier to work with. Sort of everything's there in front of you, and that's where sort of Apple have really excelled back in the day. And of course, they are the same to some extent with the Mac Pros, the classic Mac Pros like we're using, where you can take the side panel off and you've got pretty good access to most things.
I was just going to say, what are some of the best Apple computers to repair, since we're talking about
where the whole computer opens up? They started that with some of the beige ones, right? You have to put the tower upside down, and then just the whole side comes off.
Yeah. So the 8600, I believe, was the first one for that. Where you had
and then the G3 tower. Yeah.
And the G3 tower was similar to that, but to get inside, you had to put the tower on its side, and then it sort of latched open. It's or however it was.
But see, even something like the old, like the 7000 series, which of course, I mean, they were based on, I think, one of the earlier Macs. I can't remember.
Like the Centris,
yeah, and with those ones that you could, you take the front off, and then you opened up this little plastic thingy for accessing the PCI card slots. But there are a couple of clips, and the whole power supply would just open out to one side, and then you had complete access to the entire logic board. And that was, again, another really nice design, being able to get to it for whatever you need. And that, you needed a bit of table space to do it, but they were very accessible. So they were nice designs there.
Yeah, just anything in the 8500, 8100, or 800 series case where there's plastic everywhere, and maybe the metal surrounding is all you get, and all the bezels and everything are just going to be as brittle as possible when you're working on those these days.
Well,
no, thank you.
The one of the memories I have is upgrading RAM on a Quadra 840 AV, which in order to do that, you would have to take a little plastic clip out. You'd have to take all your new bus cards out, disconnect all of the cables from the... Actually, I did manage to do it so I didn't have to disconnect everything. I think I just had to undo the power and then undo a screw and then slide it forward and then flip it around, and then you could get access to the RAM. And the idea of having to remove all the new bus cards to upgrade the RAM, for me, was just infuriating at the time. And of course, they stayed with that design for a while, which is a shame.
Yeah, that was why when I was looking for memory upgrades for the Quadra 800 I just thought, let me just max it out. I'm never going to have to open this thing up like that again. Let me just put it in there, be done with it.
Yeah. But look,
Go ahead.
No, you go.
RAM upgrades piss me off with the iMac G4. Like, RAM is
Oh,
easily accessible.
yes.
Not all of it.
That's a
Half
good
of
one.
it
That's
is.
a good one.
Half of it is, yeah.
Yes.
And they take two different RAMs. One's a desktop RAM stick, and the other's a laptop RAM stick. It's like, come on.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Come on, man. Yeah, no, it's just this is very true. I mean, and in actual fact, the G4 iMac replacing a hard drive in that is an absolute nightmare. I mean, because the hard drive lives on top of the logic board or under it, depending on which way you're accessing
Actually,
it.
it lives on top of the CD-ROM. CD,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
that's
got to
right.
take the CD part out to get to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I got a secondhand iMac G4, and the guy said, "Well, the hard drive's going in it," so I got a bit of a discount. I should have gotten a bigger discount from the assembly I had to go through, both taking it apart and putting it back in, like directly after purchasing the darn thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so what's the
compared to
favorite?
a Mac Pro, we're spoiled. I mean, I had to change out my Wi-Fi PCI or my Bluetooth. I'm losing words here. My USB PCI card, like right before the show, shut it down, pop the hatch, clip, done. And you're not going to match that unless.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Jay. The easiest one is the classic Mac Pro.
I will actually disagree with that. I actually think the easiest one is one of the G3, G4 towers where the board pops out sideways. To have the board lying down in front of you for swapping things in and out, I think that they are...
You could pull the processor tray out too of the 4,1, 5,1, and it's right there in front of you.
Oh, absolutely. But you can actually, but the point that I'm making is you can actually fire up, a G4. You can actually, like if you're swapping a card out or doing RAM or something, you can test it with it still open. You can have it all opened up like that. And just having it flat out in front of you like that, I think is wonderful. I would love to have that again. That was very, very convenient.
And I could do stuff with my G3 and G4 that I could never do with my Mac Pro. And that was, growing up in a house without air conditioning, because we didn't really need it except for 5 days out of the year, I could just open it up, put an external fan on it, and just run my computer, and it wouldn't overheat. I melted a few CPUs that way, but it worked for the most part. But
especially when Jay overclocks them.
That was long before my overclocking days. But yeah, some external cooling, no problem. Pop the hatch, put a fan on it, you're done. It was nice.
Awesome. Well, I almost forgot about the iMac G4. I sort of just discarded that away in my memory bank of horrible things I never want to have to do again. So
actually, I just realized there's an honorable mention that we should also put in is the iMac G5. This is now, of course, there are a million things wrong with the iMac G5, but those early ones, when you would just undo some screws at the back and you would just open it up and the whole thing was just laid out in front of you,
and that
compartmentalized. Yeah.
That is how every one of those machines should have been built. It was fantastic because my brother has one. Well, it's not mine, but I had to service it once. I had to upgrade the memory. It was like a bunch of screws. You take the back off and it was like everything was at your disposal. So easy to get to.
Yep.
And then I
all
think
in little compartments.
Yeah, the revision B or C changed that. And it was all this foil and everything. You had to go through the screen and everything. And that's how a lot of the Intel Macs stayed, going through that. But the G5 one was just a breeze to handle.
Which is the one where you had to fish around with a credit card to get the little clip. Was that the G5?
Yeah. That was on the G5 and the Intel ones, yeah.
But the 2010, 2011 iMacs weren't that bad. I mean, you had to pop the screen off with the suction cups. And you pull the four screws for the screen or 6 screws? I can't remember.
Yeah, but we're talking about the pain and suffering involved in a later revision iMac G5.
Yeah, true. But I'm just saying that it's not so bad on the 2011s and 2010s.
Yeah, I had an exciting run-in with 240 volts AC power with one of those iMacs once, but that's what happens when you have all of the, sort of a fair bit of exposed, pins and stuff in the power supply. But yeah.
Is that when you developed that little tick?
Jay, your microphone's going weird.
Yeah, your microphone.
We've established it's not the card.
Jay. Poor Jay. I just put a picture in the chat there on the Wikipedia link there to an iMac G5 20-inch revision A. You just remove the back, and that's how it looks. So the link is in the chat there. You can see easy access to the power supply, the hard drive, the memory, and everything. And then you have, of course, your cursed forest of capacitors that you're going to have to replace.
I love the fact that the file name of the image is called iMac G5 Guts. But yes, it's worth mentioning that every single one of those little electrolytic capacitors that you see poking out there needs to be changed.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at this, and you also reminds me of the X-Serves. The X-Serves were laid out pretty nice too because everything was flat.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So just to give people a little bit of background on Jay's microphone problem, this is something that's been recurring over the last few sort of days, and we've managed to isolate that it is not the microphone. We've now isolated that it's not the USB card. I don't think it's the hub. It's something to do with the computer itself. So, okay.
Nope.
So no audio. So we'll get you sorted.
We'll just have to think of a topic that just Jay needs to talk about.
Well, I think
speaking of the puck mouse, yeah.
Oh, he'll find a way to get his arm to work.
Hello?
Talk.
Yes.
There we go. We got you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was prepared and had this headset.
Unfortunately. So any other comments on Macs you would rather not service?
Anything beige.
Anything beige.
I mean, I guess the thing is that there are some that if someone brings something to me, it's just not worth working on. For some, I mean, like we talk about what a pain in the neck it is for a clamshell to get into a clamshell, but nonetheless, we do it because it's worth it for these as a vintage computer. We will go and undo them all and replace the hard drive. We don't want to have to do it often, but we will do it. Whereas there are some computers where if they, they turn up and say, this going to say like, this needs a new keyboard or something like that. It'll be like, no. Bye. Yeah,
typically the smaller the machine, I don't care if it's Apple or another vendor, they're going to be more problematic to get into. I mean, just look at the one of the previous generations Mac Mini. The Intel ones, they brought it back so you could change the memory modules in there. But if you look at the teardown guide for that, they put a little metal cage like around the memory modules that seems to have served no purpose other than to make it more frustrating to change the memory. So who knows?
Oh dear, love those little metal cages.
Oh boy. All right, cool. All right, so let's move along. Our next topic, we're going to talk about interfaces and our favorite ports or interfaces on our Macs. And basically, why isn't your favorite FireWire? Because it should be.
I can give you one reason straight off the bat why it's not FireWire.
Yeah?
The plug only goes in one way.
Oh, there you go. At least on FireWire 400, you could actually feel. You don't even have to be looking at it. You could feel it. But FireWire 800, I'd have to turn it 3 times every time.
Yep, that's right. So I think even FireWire 400 is better than USB in terms of plugging it in because you know from looking at it, from feeling it, which way around it's supposed to go.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think of functionality wise, FireWire provides you with some extra voltage if you need it. For external hard drives, you don't need to usually worry about a power brick or something like that. And it's pretty fast. It's actually on the same machine, it'll outperform USB 2 usually because USB as a port has to rely on a lot of the CPU to do its job, whereas FireWire does not have to as much. So even on a similarly spec PC or Mac, if you have a FireWire 400 connection and a USB 2 connection, which is at 480 megabits per second or whatever it is, generally speaking, the FireWire connection is going to give you a bit more speed, which is, I always found interesting, even though the numbers are different. In my real case scenarios, it always seems that FireWire is beating it.
See, I've never really used FireWire much.
What'd you say, Jay?
Especially on the older machines. When I tried to use, I think it was my Pismo. I think that was the first Mac I had with a FireWire port. FireWire would smoke USB, and not just because it was USB 1, but because the CPU had to handle all the traffic.
Yeah.
And FireWire was just straight through, and I loved it. And today still, I will buy my hard drive enclosures, my Blu-ray burners, whatever I can find on eBay because they don't make it new anymore, with multiple interfaces. You got the eSATA, the FireWire, the USB. The more connections it has, the better, because I can connect the Blu-ray burner to my Mac Pro, and then I can connect it to my G4 and read Blu-ray disc, which is awesome.
Yeah, and it is getting harder to find those FireWire enclosures, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's just they. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but they seem to be going up in price, unfortunately.
Luckily, you can still find the FireWire cables. That's a plus. So you can still find those brand new. In fact, I think Micro Center still actually, you could go into a Micro Center and buy them right there in the store.
Oh yeah, I think the cables will be around for a long time. I mean, what was the last Apple machine that had FireWire 800 in it?
I think it was our Mac Pros actually.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it will be.
After that, it was all Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I mean they still make, I guess, the Thunderbolt to FireWire adapter, but I think you even need an adapter. What'd you say, Jay?
I stockpile those adapters.
I'm always tempted to pick one of those up, but I don't have a Thunderbolt machine that I really use, so it's just like tempting because it's like FireWire, but maybe I'll use it.
See, I don't have a lot of Thunderbolt stuff either. It's like I think that was kind of one of those things that Apple bet on, and it didn't really catch on too well.
Oh, I would argue the opposite.
In PC world, not so much. They called it IE3 or something.
No,
IEE.
No, so the FireWire in the PC world was called 1394 based on the IEEE specification for it.
Okay.
Now, if you're
With a name like that, who expects it to catch on?
But see, Sony had their nickname of iLink for it. Everybody and their mother had different names for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a camera with it on it, and it it just refers to it's the 1394 or whatever. But we know what it is.
Eyesight, baby.
Well, most of the USB-C stuff is also Thunderbolt too. So
well, you get very tricky in there because there are some devices or ports that has the same connector, but you have to very very carefully check if it's either one or the other. Because even the new iMacs that came out, if you buy the higher end one, you get 2 extra. I think it's USB ports, but they're not Thunderbolt ports, or the other way around, something like that. So you just have to be careful, especially they look the same.
Yeah.
Now, I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I have to say that I do actually quite like USB-C because of its the fact that it goes in either way. Which, of course, I know it is the case with the Lightning port. We haven't mentioned Lightning. The Lightning port is a good port, but
the worst port.
bit slow. Lightning's one of the big problems with Lightning is it's slow.
Yeah, Lightning should have not been the name for that.
Yeah,
snail,
sparkle,
fizzle.
I hear what you're saying. USB-C is nice. Video, data, power. I think it can do everything, but there's still, including Thunderbolt and USB-C, I still don't think even come close to the amount of power it can provide. I think FireWire was 15 watts. You could power the world with that. No port has ever matched that since that I know of.
I think the USB-C ports are now.
Yeah, the USB-C.
Dude.
A lot of the newer ones can do like 15 watts, I think. But
but
it really depends on the device. So if you just have a laptop or whatever, it might accept 15 volts from a charger, like to charge the machine up, but it might not be able to provide that voltage to a peripheral if you're plugging in an external hard drive or something.
Yes, I agree with you on that because I know my laptop, my 2017 MacBook Pro has USB-C, and I think it's I want to say it's a 60 watt power brick that's USB-C to USB-C. So it does provide, a lot of power over
does, but the Mac doesn't crank out 60 watts.
No, the Mac does not.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, the maximum, according to the IEEE specification, the maximum voltage for FireWire is 30 volts at 1.5 amps.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Goodness. That's a lot. Yeah. I mean, if you compare that to USB's 5 volts or whatever, like, oops.
1.5 amps. Holy, that's a lot.
Since we're talking about power, can I put a special mention out there for MagSafe?
Yes.
I love MagSafe.
Oh, yes.
Oh God, I wish
someone mentioned that earlier.
Not the new
MagSafe.
iPhone, and not the new MagSafe.
No.
iPhone MagSafe.
The good one.
Yeah, MagSafe or MagSafe 2. Go on either way. Held on with magnets. What a fantastic
To be honest with you,
was.
I think MagSafe 1, I prefer MagSafe 1 over MagSafe 2. And the reason why I say that is because I think it sticks a lot more, but it does come apart when you need it. The MagSafe 2 doesn't have it's not as magnetic as the previous one. So it tends to want to come out a lot more. And they didn't make it in an L shape. They made it always in a T shape. So basically, I love the L shaped ones because those are a lot harder to pull out when you're like sitting it in your lap or something. But the T shaped ones, when I bought my MacBook Air and it had the T shape, MagSafe 2, that thing would come out all the time,
I just want to say, Jay, see if you can stay still as long as possible.
Yeah.
Jay's having some minor internet difficulties.
Yeah. His internet, people may have noticed his internet's been sort of fluctuating a little bit tonight.
He's just taking a nap. He'll wake up.
He's gone.
We hurt his feelings.
So, but yeah, Trina even says, the L-shaped ones. Yes, I like the L-shaped ones better than the T-shaped ones.
Yeah,
they just sit a lot better, and they're out of the way because either you could put it going away from you or coming towards you.
Now, just as a little bonus, let's hear one of each of us. What's your worst connector that you hate dealing with?
30-pin iPod.
Micro or mini USB, either one of those,
Okay, Bruce.
because they break.
The big Centronic style SCSI connector on the back of hard drives where you plug it in and you do the clips around the side.
Oh,
That's stupid.
I hate any of the small high density interconnect ones that Apple did, whether it's the SCSI on the PowerBook or the floppy drive on the PowerBook or even the 6100's 45 pin adapter. It's just like with those, there are so many pins, and if you see at the very top where that little nook is that points out, the very top of that, sometimes there's a little clip at the top to make sure that port stays into the socket. I could never get those to. I don't care if it was brand new out of the box. I could never get that thing to stay straight. It would always wiggle itself out.
Yes, no, they not good. I agree with that.
Yeah, and everyone who's saying USB and micro USB, anybody who's had to repair one of those ports, or trying to repair a cable or a port on any of those micro USB or micro HDMI or any of those, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's actually it's an interesting point with USB is the fact that you had, even just with like the USB 1 standard, there were so many different versions of plug. And you could be armed with all sorts of different USB cables, but then suddenly find that you didn't have the right one to plug into what you wanted to plug into.
Yeah.
And that was a very frustrating exercise. One of the things that I do really like is standardization. I'm a big fan of the same things being on different devices, and so you don't have to have massive cables like I have in a little container over here. So that's something that I can understand why a lot of new devices have had to go down. They've had to keep shrinking connectors down smaller and smaller and smaller because the devices are getting smaller and smaller. But yeah, that's just one of my pet peeves, is having to have huge amounts of cables.
Yeah, I know there were quite a few proprietary ones right when USB came out, because there wasn't a standard on a mini port. I think Sony had their own and a few others had their own. I remember getting a digital camera not long ago from a friend who wanted me to get the photos off of, and I'm like, I don't have a plug that fits in there.
It's interesting you say that. I've got a cable in my little collection of cables there, and sometimes when I'm looking for like a micro SD cable, I grab a USB cable, I grab it, and it's like, what plug is that? And it plugs into, I think, a Panasonic camera.
Yeah,
and nothing else.
A weird thing.
Yeah. Still USB, but completely different plug.
Very different. Yeah.
So what about Jay's worst connector? Since we
is my mic working?
Yes, it's working.
Okay. The 30-pin iPod connector.
What?
I hated that thing with a passion. Always bending pins, putting it in the wrong way, and no, hate it.
I've never experienced one being mishandled, like personally using it, but I could totally see how that would happen.
Well, my son destroyed one time on his iPod Touch, so yeah.
All right. So we have a next topic here.
I think we lost Jay again.
What I'm going to say is Jay is sort of going to walk us through the next topic here. But if he is going in and out, maybe we'll save that for another time.
We'll skip it right now.
Yes. I'm looking at the remaining topics, and all of them are very J important.
Well, let's talk about the fourth topic there, and he won't be able to have his opinion heard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jay, do you want to try cellular? That might work better.
Who's going again?
Do a hotspot.
One bar. I don't think it's better.
Just use your telephone and dial up. You might.
Yeah. You want me to try my thing real quick? The next topic?
Yes.
While
you're here.
Let me share my screen. If the connection drops, it's all Bruce's fault.
So this is Jay's tech tip on Time Machine Editor.
Yes. Let's see. How does this work again? There we go. All right. So I wanted to, and this is not a long section. It's just something I want to bring attention to so you can check it out for yourself. a little utility called Time Machine Editor. It works on Macs that are running 10.9. What is that? Mavericks and up. Basically, it does exactly what the name implies. Sorry, GT. Hi, now you can see me. It lets you edit Time Machine preferences, even the ones that Time Machine itself doesn't show you. So you set up Time Machine, which everybody should, because of course you want to back up all your stuff, right? But maybe you're in an office environment and there's 100 machines using Time Machine to a local server, or your Wi-Fi is a little spotty, or there's many reasons why you do not want to back up every hour, because it can really bog down your network. So you can set the interval to every X amount of hours, or even once a day. You can completely customize that. And for example, if you are in an environment where there's a lot of traffic on Wi-Fi, or you really need peak network performance, you can even exclude certain times, like you see in the screenshot here. I'll make it a little bigger.
You can see it just fine. Oh, there you
go. Say, hey, from noon until 4 p.m., I do not want any backups made because I need peak performance on my network, or whatever. Something that Steve might want to talk about for a minute is local Time Machine snapshots, and why you might want to disable that. Steve, do you have an opinion on that?
So I had a situation where I was cloning one hard drive to the other, and I was choosing different Time Machine destinations. So I had a backup of one drive. When an SSD failed, I reverted to that backup, and in it had these hidden Time Machine snapshots that I was not aware about, and they were taking up a good amount of space. So when I switched to another Time Machine external, it seemingly just ignored those and created their own snapshots, and this process continued over 3 or 4 times. So when I finally was opening up my SSD, and I'm like, why do I have so little space here? What is going on? My 1 terabyte SSD was claiming to only have 160 gigs free. I'm like, that is very strange. I don't put a lot of video footage on here. What's going on? Well, I had about 500 to 600 gigabytes of Time Machine snapshots that were just hanging around, and Clean My Mac, or whatever it's called, would not even touch them. I had to go down the route of finding a trial software to locate them, and then because I didn't want to pay for that software, I had to find that file name in the system and delete it manually. But there was just literally hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes of this stuff just hanging out there. So you might want to remove some of them.
Yes, Bruce.
Yes.
This utility gives you the option to switch off create local snapshots every hour. What are the disadvantages of doing that?
Turning them off? I believe it's only pretty relevant for laptops. Like when you're out on the road, you're out all day, you have the local snapshots, and when you connect back to a network that has your Time Machine on it, or it finds the external hard drive, it'll translate those snapshots to an actual backup. For a desktop computer, I don't really see the use, to be honest, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think the snapshots have to do with speeding up your backups. So if you connect to your disk, it's not trying to think of all the things it has to back up. Those snapshots are taken periodically.
Actually, I think not creating the local snapshots is a good thing. Remember, I was actually asking, how do you stop that, Jay? Remember? Mm-hmm. And you were saying, oh, it's not possible. If you're using Time Machine, you can't stop
I didn't say that.
Apparently you can't. Well, that's what you were telling me.
Well, what the setting here says create local snapshots every hour, and you could disable that, enable it. How I read into that is it will still create those snapshots, but it's not going to be as frequently.
Hopefully it's where it says backup. If you put the interval, maybe that's when it creates the snapshot.
No clue.
I don't know. I haven't had a computer with less than 6 gigabytes of free space in about 20 years, so it's never really bothered me. But then again, I don't use Time Machine that often. But if you do, and if it's your only means of backing up, you definitely should. It's free, it's built in. This will give you a lot more flexibility to control your backups. And if you run a machine that is older, because this is Mavericks and up, Intel only, you can also take a look at Time Machine Scheduler, and that supports PowerPC, Leopard, and up. So I'll put these links in the description after the show. Time Machine Editor is a little bit more matured, nicer featured, and all that stuff, but Time Machine Scheduler basically does the same thing for older systems. So
look at the button on.
I know it's old. It's really old.
I gives me the warm and fuzzy.
There's not even screenshots on here.
Can I just make a quick mention here to Ed Retrotech? Isn't Carbon Copy Clone a better option over Time Machine? Now, if I understand this correctly, and I may well have this wrong, but Carbon Copy Cloner is very good at keeping an up-to-date version of a drive. So, in other words, you've got a drive here, and it will analyze the drive and say, okay, these are the files that have changed since last time I backed it up, and here is a clone of your drive. Now, that's great if you're wanting to create a live snapshot. But here's a situation. Imagine, for argument's sake, that a week ago, you accidentally deleted a file and didn't realize it, or you accidentally wrote over a file and didn't realize it. Now, you get this snapshot of your hard drive. You've now got two perfect copies of the same mistake. Whereas something like Time Machine allows you to go back. You can go back to a backup that you did 2 weeks ago and find that file that you accidentally deleted. And that's one of the big differences with these sorts of incremental backups is they're not just making a clone of your drive. They're actually recording everything that's been going on. And I know that when I used to actually do backups for a company that I work for, one of the most common things I was doing was restoring files for people who would open a file, make some changes, and forget to do a save as and save over the original rather than replicating. And they would kind of be going, "Oh, I've just written over this original. Can you go and get that original back?" And I would go back to an older backup. So that, unless I'm completely wrong, I think that's the primary difference. Go ahead, Jay.
That used to be the case, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But Carbon Copy Cloner, I'm not sure about Super Duper because I haven't used that in a while. Now has a feature called Safety Net, where it's depending on how much space and how you set it up, it will save files that have changed in an archive. It's of course nowhere near as flashy as Time Machine with the little space and the windows and all that, but you can go back and recover older versions of files from a Carbon Copy Cloner backup.
So what it basically does is your source and your destination, if it detects something in your destination is slightly different or a different date or a different version than your source, it will just put that in the safety net folder. It's not going to overwrite that.
Yeah.
Now, there is something else I want to add because this is something that I will probably cover in maybe next week's show. I've been having nothing but problems with Time Machine. It has, I've been using it for years and years and years, and it's saved my neck a few times. But there are instances where it just does things and it doesn't have much configurability, and it drives me bonkers. So I have over the last few weeks been using Retrospect. Now, Retrospect has been around for donkey's years. I used to use Retrospect back in the 90s, sort of for backing up, offices. You would just have like a Retrospect server using a tape drive, and you would put a Retrospect client on all the computers, and you'd back up everyone's computers onto tape. Well, Retrospect is still going, and I've just installed Retrospect on my computer recently, and I'm trying that out, and I'm so far really, really happy with it. Now, it is a paid product. It's a subscription fee. I think it's something like $9 a month or something like that. It's not ridiculous amounts of money, but it is paid. Yeah, I mean, I know 3 options or one-off payments are the preference. But in terms of subscription fees, this one's not too bad if you're just dealing with a single computer. I will probably do a bit of a review of that, in the next show, just talk about, Retrospect, the features that it has and stuff like that. Because I think that's, for a lot of people that are using Time Machine, I think it's good to see there are alternatives out there.
Yeah, the more the better.
Cool. All right. So any other discussions rather on Time Machine?
Nothing positive.
I mean, just as we always say when we talk about backups, one backup is better than none. But if you have something that's very important, make sure you have multiple destinations for your backups, whether it's Time Machine, a Blu-ray disc, Backblaze offsite backup, something like that. You want to make sure your important stuff is safe, and you want to test those backups. Don't just back up to a Time Machine box and don't look at it. You'll open it up once in a while. Make sure your files are still there. It's not running out of space, etc.
Yep.
All right, so our next topic here, we're going to be talking about software update procedures and our preferences and what we think about software updates. Are we very eager to just update them when we see them? Are we going to dive into that and just go on and go blindly into it, or are we going to read about them first and figure that out? And where's the banner, GT? Come on.
I know Jay's the producer, unless he's slacking here.
I am slacking. You're right. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, you sit there blaming me. I'm not doing it.
I always blame you.
No, Steve is blaming me.
Yeah.
It's just mutual. We all just blame you, GT.
Yeah.
Well,
You have a
GT
guilty look
blames-
upon you. I'm sorry.
I know.
And then GT blames YouTube, so it's a knock-on effect.
Yep.
Well, I'll go first on this. The software update procedures. I mean, I do beta testing on all the new stuff, but I have a machine that I do that specifically for. So I get the newest updates exactly when they come out for that. That's a different update procedure, I think, than what I normally do on my operational machines, because I usually wait about maybe a week or so before I throw an update on, unless it is a security only update. If it's like a major security update that they found something, a gaping hole or something, I'll go ahead and throw that on there. But I'll wait about a week, because then you'll read all these people in the forums and stuff. I'm having issues with this or this
So
or that.
you do your research.
Yes.
Okay. And what
Yes,
about when
yeah.
it comes to actually installing the backup? Do you just click install, walk away, go have a coffee, come back? Or
No.
do you back up your system first and all that stuff?
My system is backed up first, but then I sit there and watch it do its update. I don't go walk away and come back and, it's updated,
Okay.
I like to sit there and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, the only one I don't do that on is probably my watch, because it takes forever. And it does it at nighttime. Whenever I do that, but all my updates are manual updates. I don't have anything automatic set on at all.
What about your App Store?
App Store, I have that not automatic either. I have to actually manually go and select each one that I want to update.
Yeah, it's I'm the same way. I research the updates because I have to write about it. So I know what's in it. But before I update, and this is more for my phone than for my Mac, which is on a frequent backup schedule anyway, I will plug this in first to iTunes, do a full backup in iTunes. Then I will import all my photos into the Photos app. Then I will install the update for my phone, because it wouldn't be the first update that breaks something. And on my Mac, I will have a quick check in Carbon Copy Cloner. Like, hey, when was the last backup? Is my clone up to date? Yes. Okay, let's install it. I never install an update before I make sure my backups are okay. And, that's bitten me a few times in the past. So.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just a security update or an update to Safari or something like that, I generally just click them with impunity and walk away. If I'm doing a full OS update, whatever, 10.10 to 10.11 or whatever it is, I have a procedure where I generally buy a new hard drive. I buy a new SSD, usually a little bit larger capacity than the last one. I pop that in there and I install a new operating system there, and then I bring everything across from the other drive in terms of all my emails and all that, and I virtually just start from scratch. Or if I'm feeling lazy, I'll get a second hard drive and I'll just then I'll clone my hard drive onto the new one and then run the updater. If I then launch it and find there's something horrendously wrong with it, I can then just flick back to the other hard drive and do it that way.
That
and
almost sounds
saved me
like a
few
Microsoft
times.
way of doing things.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But I mean, it's getting a bit more like that these days. I mean, I don't want to suddenly do an update and find that none of my 32 bit apps work anymore. So
yeah, it's also one of those things where it's much harder to downgrade if you make a mistake. So it's not that bad of an idea at all to have a second partition or an external drive that has a complete clone of the previous version that you hang on to, and you don't overwrite that with a newer backup for 6 to 12 months just to be sure.
Yeah.
At least you have a starting point of that's all my apps, all my drivers, all my plugins, all my configurations, all my schedules and everything are set up on that system the way I liked it. I don't want to have to, go crazy trying to figure that out.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than overwriting a backup that it turns out you needed it later on.
Yep.
Same for my phone. I don't back up to iCloud because it takes forever, it costs money, and doesn't back everything up. I back up to iTunes. That's free and fast. And then I will go into the hard drive to the location where that backup is saved. I right-click it and I say compress to make a little zip file out of it, so that when I do the update and I use it for a few days, I plug in the phone, do a fresh backup. The old backup is overwritten, but I still have a copy of the pre-update backup in case I need to restore it. I wait a few weeks and then I trash it.
that's a great tip. So where are those files stored, Jay?
That's an excellent question.
It's under Mobile Sync is the name of the folder, and I believe it's your username, library, application support, or something like that. But Mobile Sync, all one word, is the name of the folder because I had to set up basically like an alias or a shortcut to it because it was way too large for my startup volume, and that's where it's saved under your user directory somewhere in your startup volume. So I had to make I think they call it a symbolic link to an external hard drive. So when I'm backing that up, it's actually, the system thinks it's backing up to that folder, but in the command line, I set it up so it's actually dumping it to an external drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to tell you something that I hope Apple never, ever, ever does is go the Microsoft route and force updates upon you. Because, I mean, I know this is Mac yakking, but with Windows 10, you are forced to take updates. Unless you're under the professional version, then you can actually stave off those updates for a little while, but eventually you have to take them. I mean, but they're basically forced upon you. You can't, opt out of them or anything like that.
Well, I think this sort of boils down to something we've touched on a bit before, but I'm going to talk about my backup preferences and sort of ease into my update preferences rather, and sort of ease into it. But I am very particular about the software updates I do. I'm similar to GT. I have all my App Store things set to manual, so I have to go in and I have to update each app. It's a pain, but there's been a few times. Yeah, there you go. There has been a few times where an app updates and it just completely destroys things. And with the App Store, there's no real easy way at all that they make it easy. I want to go back to the previous version. No, you can't do that. If you have the app on your iTunes, you could maybe fiddle with it, but that's a whole other story. I'm the same way with the computer. I'm very wary of the updates that I do. I'm very conscious about them, but I think fundamentally people are thinking about updates in a different way, especially when you think of, everybody who has an iPhone or an iPad. Generally speaking, I think all of us are of that experience where you had to do a big procedure to do an update, whether it was, system 8.5 to 8.6, you got out the CD, you did the installation, there were known incompatibilities, it might have moved stuff around to your system folder if there was a problem, going back even further than that, system 7 and everything like that, that we sort of expect the worst when you do an update, and we know all right, this is something that is exciting, there are new features and stuff. However, there could be consequences with this, and I don't think that individuals, the common folk, not the enthusiasts, but the common people who are using these devices today, really take that approach, because in my office environment, when I was there, people, got Catalina and they were just clicking the update button. They didn't even know what it was. They didn't even know what it did. They didn't know what features it was. Like, well, there's an update. I have to do the update. And it's like, whoa. 9 times out of 10, yeah, they'll catch most of the bugs or whatever, but I am still scarred from a Tiger update that I did that just nuked my iDisk, and I will never be the first one to click update on something just because, hey, it's new. Unless I'm having a severe problem with like Final Cut Pro and I want it updated or something, I usually back off until I know that it doesn't break everything.
To be fair, I would click it without any kind of backup or anything if it was as easy as the OS 9 and early OS 10 days. Because if it messed up, easy restore.
Yeah.
You just drag and drop stuff from your backup. You didn't have those plist files that were encrypted and accounts that were tied in with different apps. And now manually restoring a backup is a nightmare. Back in the OS 9 and early OS 10 days, drag your mail folder, drag your preferences, you're done.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing that. I did it for fun, even when nothing was broken, but not anymore.
All right. Any more comments on this before we move on to the next topic?
Oh, I think we've covered that well.
All right. So our next topic is something that we sort of came up with of Yak DISAGREES. So this is where we're going to talk about a particular subject that is something that we might not all see eye to eye on in the Mac world, of course, nothing too silly. But this week's topic is going to be Mac OS X 10.5 Leopard, because a lot of us have differing opinions on their experiences with Leopard. And I'll open the floor to Jay, who you can see the steam pouring out of his head.
First off, I would like to say that Leopard is a decent operating system. It provided users with something new and fun to explore that was absolute garbage, in between the best operating systems they ever made, being Tiger and Snow Leopard. Now, of course, you want to update. You don't want to, be the whole world is talking about Leopard. You don't want to be that guy that sticks on with Tiger. So you updated to Leopard, but you never loved it. It was buggy. It just didn't work right. It was bloaty. It was way slower than Tiger. So the second that Snow Leopard came out, you jumped ship and you upgraded and you left that nasty year behind.
Unless you had a G5.
And
I was
then,
going to say.
no, if he had a G5, he just went back to Tiger, because if you can't do better, you certainly can't do worse. But then these people started appearing out in the world, and they're still around today, that said that Leopard was actually a good operating system, and we can't have that. We can't have that. And we know one of those people, and he happens to be here.
There are a couple of things that I do like about Leopard, and one is the little animated intro. I love that little animated intro of Leopard. I just think it's awesome.
And no, we're not going to play it because we will get a copyright.
So I'll whistle it. But, I actually feel like, Leopard was a pretty solid, stable operating system. And you talk about it being bloated and buggy. I mean, I never really noticed that when I was using it. It brought in, I think it was the first to bring in Quick Look, which I think is just one of the best things that's ever been on the Apple operating system ever. I mean, the ability to just press the space bar on a file and get a preview of it, I think is just awesome. I mean, I use that all the time. And so I think that was an absolutely brilliant feature to bring to it. There are various other improvements and stuff about it. I think it was the first operating system with Time Machine too, wasn't it? We were talking about that before.
It was.
And we do accept that, although it's not brilliant, it is free and can be quite good under the right circumstances. And so I just feel like Leopard gets a bad name. Yes, I think Tiger's a great operating system, and yes, I think Snow Leopard is a great operating system. But I don't feel like Leopard is the horrendous pile of garbage that it's sometimes referred to.
Between Tiger, Leopard, and Snow Leopard, where do you rank Leopard?
Oh, I would say somewhere between.
Tiger and Snow Leopard.
Thank you. So I would.
Thank you, Trina.
For me, Snow
Thank you,
Leopard.
Trina.
Snow Leopard is still one of my favorites, but as I mentioned before, I can't install that on my G5, and my G5 is still an important part of my computing world. So I really like Snow Leopard, so that's always going to sit up on the top. I would probably rank Leopard above Tiger, and I know I have my reasons for that, and they're going to be different to your reasons, but I would probably put put Leopard above Tiger. So.
I think it all makes sense now because
I actually agree with you, Bruce.
I own a copy of Leopard and I don't own a copy of Tiger. So how about that?
Hey, Bruce, I actually agree with you. I actually agree with you on this, and I think Leopard, because I run Leopard on my G5, and one because it's the last operating system you can actually run on the G5. Actually, the last of what, 2 operating systems you can run on it.
I think this is it's making sense now because the same kind of people that say that Leopard is so good. Hey, thank you, all things.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, all things.
Those same people are usually the same kind of people that say, "Ooh, the G5 is so cool," which it's not. Which is not. It's a piece of crap compared to a G4 MDD. So I think yeah.
Mine is
My
good for
G5
gaming.
runs rings around your M4 MDD.
By what?
I think so. My experience with Leopard is very different. I had a PowerBook 12-inch 867 megahertz, and it was just at the system requirement minimums for Leopard. So I never recall really installing it. I think I might have put it on external, but I was just on Tiger on that machine. And so my real only experience with Leopard was when I got an Intel MacBook hand me down from my brother, because it had either Tiger on it or he just installed Leopard on it. And I didn't really have any problems. It being an Intel machine, it was actually very quick and it was very usable. However, I did have a G4 iMac that was an older one, and it was like 800 megahertz, so it wasn't 867. And so I used some tricks to force Leopard on there, and it wasn't fully supported. And if you want to see a slow machine, you force Leopard on a machine that just barely can't handle it, and you're just gonna say, "This sucks. I am jumping ship to whatever I had installed on here previously." Because that was one of the most frustrating experiences. And obviously, it was not designed to run on that machine, but I would argue on any of the machines where it just barely runs on it, you're not going to have a positive experience. No. And you have to recall that these are the days where the hard drive was not a solid state. You had to be insanely rich to have, some type of solid state device. They were all spinners, which, helps the slowness. Thank you very much, Patrick. Yes. Patrick. So Patrick is in the Leopard over Tiger camp.
So Jay's outnumbered today.
Well, I did say that my only good experience with it, and my only real experience with it, has been on an Intel platform. I do have, usually what I end up doing is I end up having 2 partitions or 2 drives, whether it's on a G4 or a G5, so I can have both operating systems. And the reason being system compatibility of applications, because if you want to run a newer web browser or a newer whatever, Leopard is usually the last stop for PowerPC apps. Well, and so it doesn't hurt to have it installed there, but if I have the option, I always like having Tiger.
Can we refund Super Chats? Because I don't want it if it comes with that kind of nasty language.
Keep them coming.
I'm going to say one thing about the two, and that, yes, I think Steve's got it correct there, is that, Tiger, at least you can run classic mode. Leopard, you couldn't. So there was that little, change right there. You could run, OS 9 classic in Tiger, but you couldn't do that on Leopard. That's when they stopped it,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Tiger has its benefits. It'll never be my favorite operating system, but it did bring, I think you touched on that when my internet dropped again. It did introduce Time Machine, which is great. It has more compatibility. I never had the hardware to properly run it. I was on a G3 blue and white, and early G. All right, Trina is now banned as well. Thank you, but
Thank you, Trina.
And
Keep
by
it
the
going.
time I went to Intel, my first MacBook Pro, I think, had Snow Leopard on it, and it just, you can't compare the two. It, like Apple said, it was a complete rewrite of the operating system. It let Leopard in the dust. It outperformed everything by miles. But yeah, those individuals with G5s were suffering for it.
Yeah, I think Leopard, it was very ambitious. There was a lot that they put in there, and especially considering they're supporting both PowerPC and Intel. It was the last release to do so. I think that's why there's a lot of bloat and a lot of sluggishness to it in some cases. I'm not going to say it's a perfect release, but I think it does include a lot of firsts that we still use today. And a lot that could be said about many of them, but I just feel like Quick Look is one of them.
Force Quit.
No, Force Quit was there for. Oh,
I started using it in Leopard.
Oh, you started.
Well, you try to say you didn't have to use it as much.
I mean, you miss cover flow. That's
that was horrible.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, look, I will concede that if you have got, your G3 Tower or a G4 Sawtooth or something like that, yes, 10.4, absolutely all the way. But if you're looking at your more modern sort of G4s, even like the G4 Mini or the mirror drive door, Leopard runs well on those, I think. And you can put lots of RAM in those too. So.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with 2 gigs.
Yeah. A Spaces was another thing it introduced. That's right. Now, Spaces was one of those things where it was interesting when they first started, but it really had to be refined more before I actually ended up using it.
Yep.
Well, we will disagree. We will agree to disagree, and pick this up another time. Next week, we will fight about something else.
Yes.
So if anyone has any ideas they want to submit, they want to put forward for us to fight about, they have to be things that we disagree on. But
I feel like
put them in
now.
So it's going to be Mac Yak Fight Night, right?
I like that. We should play some UT while we do it.
That's one way to settle an argument. Oh my goodness!
As long as Jay's got a puck mouse, right?
Well, obviously that's the way you got to do it.
Yeah, so. Puck mouse next week.
Oh, you're going down, buddy.
All right, so let's move on before any pucks are hurt. And this is going to be continuing our discussion on YouTube channels. So starting up your own YouTube channel, managing your YouTube channel, creating content for that channel, or just creating content in general. And we've previously talked about what your goals are, why are you creating a channel, what type of content you want to do. We talked about some equipment, cameras, microphones, some lighting, etc. So Bruce is going to take us on to that next step, and we're going to talk about that. But please keep in mind that we did previous segments on this. So if you missed the previous ones, feel free to jump back to those episodes to carry it on.
Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the concept of getting monetized, and so that is obviously at the point at which you have qualified for paid advertising on your videos. That's all handled essentially by Google. So Google do all of the advertising side of things, and you do have some control over it. But ultimately, you don't have control over what ads appear on your channel. But you do have control over, what sort of ads, as in like whether they're going to interrupt the flow of the video, whether you want them at particular intervals, whether you want little pop-up banners appearing on there, whether you want ads that can be skipped or whether ads that can't be skipped, that sort of thing. You do have those sorts of controls. Basically, they're the things that you need to do in order to qualify for monetization is that first you need to be in a country or region where the YouTube Partner Program is available. And that is a lot of places, but if you may want to double check that before you go to all the trouble of doing all the other things. The other is you need to have a Google AdSense account. And now that is something you can set up at any time. You basically go in and apply for an AdSense account. And I mean, I already had an AdSense account because I have advertising on some of my websites. So that was something that I didn't even need to set up for my monetization, but you might need to set that up if you don't have one already. And that's where you go in and you set up, sort of where the money goes. You have to, I think, get a bank account cleared, it's approved or something like that. I can't remember the exact steps, but that's all there on the Google AdSense thing for setting up an account. The other two really important things are you have to have more than 4,000 public watch hours in the last 12 months. What's happened?
Steve is losing feeling in his hand.
I was raising my hand.
Okay, go for it, Tracy. I have my notes blocking you. Sorry,
I knew that was happening. I just thought it was hilarious.
It started turning purple.
I just wanted to mention one caveat to the Google AdSense. It really helps if your Google AdSense email address and the email address you have used for your YouTube account creation is the same. Ask me how I know, because obviously I've had some trouble with this. I created my AdSense account ages ago, was using a different email address. So in order to jump through some of the hoops where you have to finalize some things when you finally get monetized, in order to link those two accounts, it is not clear at all. You have to go through the YouTube forums and be at the mercy of people who have been through the pain and suffering that you're about to go through. And since Google's interface and buttons change every 3 months, everything is always changing. So you cannot go through the same steps that someone's like, I finally got it. This is how you do it. So I would say if you're starting this out, or if you have not created an AdSense account yet, because you're limited to one per address, I believe, physical mailing address or location address, use the same email address. That's all I'm going to say.
Good, very good advice.
Hashtag
I didn't go through that pain, but that is definitely some good advice there. So the other two things you need the 4,000 public watch hours in the last 12 months. So that basically means that in the last 12 months, your channel needs to have had 4,000 watch hours. And what that basically means is if you have one person watching your channel for 1 hour, that's 1 watch hour. If you have one person watching your channel for 10 hours, that's 10 watch hours. If you have 10 people watching your channel for 1 hour, that's 10 watch hours. So obviously, the more people watching for longer, the more of these watch hours you will manage to accumulate. You need to get 4,000 of those in the last 12 months. And then the last one is you need to have more than 1,000 subscribers. So starting off with the subscribers, really, when it comes to growing subscribers, you need to, if you're doing videos, you need to try and make sure that you share them on social media, share them on Facebook, share them on Twitter with hashtags that are likely to get people watching, people with similar interests. You also have to remember, depending on the subject, whether you've got a particularly niche subject that you're using, you may have a very sort of slow burn subscriber increase. There are certain things where if you're providing maybe some sort of generic if you're providing content for a very large audience, you might be able to get those subscriber numbers going up a little bit faster. But sometimes, it just takes time. It just takes a fair bit of time, people finding your videos. But I would recommend sharing them with your friends, trying to get your friends to share them with other friends. As I say, getting them up on the social media, trying to get as many people, watching as possible. So, but you've just, got to try and get those subscriber numbers up. And of course, if you can buy subscribers, which I recommend against, because the moment that YouTube find that out, they're likely to get rid of them all and possibly even ban your account as well. So, you do need to try as much as possible to get your subscribers through a legitimate means. Make sure that it is just people discovering your channel and watching it. Then, of course, the viewing hours. Now, this is something where I thought I was fine with this. I thought I'd have no problems, because I'd had a few videos that got quite a few watches. before I really started growing my channel. And I thought, oh, I'm sure I'll get enough hours from those ones, but I didn't. And Steve actually, gave me a few tips on that, and that is the magic of the live stream. And that is, and what I mean by that is that you can do things like, if you can try and get your friends involved in this as well, you go and you set yourself up a live stream where you're, I don't know, you don't even need to be doing anything interesting. You can point the camera out at the garden if you want. It really doesn't matter. But you set up a live stream that runs for many hours, and then you just try and get all your friends to log on and watch it as well. They don't have to keep watching it. Just have it open in the window, and then they can go and do their own thing. And the next thing you know, you've gone and you've accumulated 50 watch hours or something like that. So there are things you can do to try and increase your I
think you've just laid out the path to the House of Moth becoming monetized. I'm just going to put a bird cam on.
That's what you got to do.
No. You got to have a meatball cam.
We have a question from Justin, by the way.
Live streaming your security cameras, Jay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we'd like to know if it's better to have one YouTube channel with a variety of topics or multiple channels with each dedicated to a category, separate gaming and music, for example. That is a good question, and I can't really say whether that is better or not. I mean, obviously, if you've got multiple channels, you then have to grow the subscriber base for each of them.
Exactly. I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, so if you have 3 different topic channels and then you're trying to get them all 3 monetized, I mean, you might end up, you might be in a situation where you've got 400 in each one and you're not monetized. But if you had them all together, you'd have over 1,000 subscribers. So that's something you need to consider. I would probably recommend, for starting off with, start with one. And then maybe in the future, if you find that certain subjects, certain topics of videos that you're doing are getting a lot more views than others, maybe then splinter off into a separate channel for that separate topic. And then in those instances, you can often get a lot of your subscribers from channel A to jump ship and go onto channel B as well. So that's something worth considering. I would say probably to start off with, just stick with the one and then maybe splinter off further down the track when you get more subscribers.
Say one thing on that? Because the way we have our channel set up, okay, it's basically, this is actually one of the 4 channels that I have on my account. Yak is one of them. But I have 3 other channels. One of them is my personal channel, which is just my name, which I don't really have any subscribers at all. That's just the one I go to watch videos on my own and stuff like that. I don't really post much there. Then I have my racing channel where I post racing videos. I don't have a lot of subscribers there either. But then I have my Mac Attack channel, which I think last I looked, I was about 400 subscribers, close to it or something like that. But I haven't posted a whole lot there. I haven't really tried to grow it, but I think I'm going to start, using some of Bruce's advice and try to grow it. But he's correct.
We're not going to have bird feeder cams going on.
Exactly. But each channel has its own subscriber base, because if you create a new channel, those subscribers from your other channels don't magically come over to your new one. You start off at 0, and you have to actually get those subscribers over there.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, sorry, finish.
No, I was going to say, but like Bruce said, you can use your main channel that you're actually more popular on and advertise that channel and get people to, come over to that channel as well.
Yeah, what I would suggest is, if you're starting a channel, don't name it and promote it in such a way where it's very focused, unless that is all you're interested in doing. You don't want to make it like Steve's 68K Performa channel, where I'm only focused on such a narrow thing, and Dana is vomiting wherever he is just because the name Performa was mentioned. But you want to think a little bit broadly what type of stuff you'd like to maybe focus on. Even though my channel is named Mac84, I do some other non-Mac stuff from time to time, electronic stuff or whatever. You just want to think about that. But I have a brilliant idea. Jay and Greg, this is what you got to do. Greg, you're going to do a live stream of a bird feeder, okay? And Jay is going to do a live stream of his cat watching your live stream of a bird feeder.
Ooh, there we go.
And just the interaction is going to be great. And then Dana is going to have both of the live streams on his screen and is going to live stream that.
Well, here's a since I have dogs and Jay has cats, he does one of his cat watching my dog and my dog watching his cat.
I don't think the cat would care about a dog. The cat would care about some birds, I think.
I don't know. You never know.
I feel like we are drifting a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit here. But I think, Steve, if I remember rightly, you did a New Year's Eve live stream once.
Oh, yeah.
You basically had a computer set up with a countdown to midnight.
That was fun.
And just set up and streamed for hours of this countdown to midnight. And every now and again, you popped in and you just changed things on the screen and stuff like that. And, it was a really cute little idea. I mean, I guess my recommendation for people would be when you are wanting to grow those hours, those viewing hours, live streams are quite a good way of doing it. If you live stream regularly, and if you've got things to live stream, you can, and you've got obviously people watching it, try and get all your friends to watch and all that sort of stuff. You can often clock up those hours fairly quickly, and then you reach that magic figure of 4,000 and 1,000, and then you'll get a little notification. YouTube will then do a little bit of research on your channel to make sure that everything's all above board and that it's something that is suitable for advertising. And then you'll get that green light, and then all of a sudden you'll get those, 25 cents a month. The money does not pour in, I can tell you, when you very first start getting advertising on your channel. You get a little bit, and it does gradually grow as you get more views. But the other thing you need to keep in mind when it comes to your channel, and we discussed this a little bit in the whole idea of starting a channel, what you have to remember is that this is advertising. Advertisers are paying to have their ads seen, and they're paying to have them seen by specific groups and demographics. So you're not going to be in a situation where you do a live stream on, pulling apart a computer or something like that, and all of a sudden you're getting ads for McDonald's or something on your video. It's just not going to work like that. Those sorts of companies, the bigger companies, they are going to be paying. They're going to want their videos shown on really big, really popular channels. So you just have to keep that in mind. That and if you go through and you swear all through your live streams, there may be advertisers that say, no, we don't want our content associated with that sort of thing. We don't want that. And then you also have to think about who is going to be watching your channel. Are you going to have like 15, 16-year-olds watching your channel? Well, advertisers don't want to advertise to them most of the time because they're not the ones that have all the money. The people with the money are, like 25 to 45 or something like that. There's that kind of bracket of people with disposable cash. And so a lot of advertisers are wanting to advertise to those people. So if you're providing content that's going to get that age bracket watching your channel, you're then more likely to get advertisers, sort of jumping on and advertising on yours. The sort of one of the topics for videos that gets the most advertisers is financial stuff, financial advice, financial planning, that sort of stuff. They're right up there. Tech stuff is also up in, I think, one of the top 5. So, there are a lot of advertisers that do want to advertise with tech stuff. So if you think you're doing a tech channel, you can do that. So anyhow, that was really, that's really that section is just, sort of the tips for, getting your subscribers and viewer hours up, and so that you can get your get monetized as quick as possible and earn some of that sweet internet money.
You've given me some really good ideas. Bird feeder cam, and I will shift my focus to financial advice, because I can tell you all about how to not manage your finances and how to spend all your money before you pay the rent. And I can talk for hours on that.
So, Jay, your new channel is The Bad Finance Dude?
Yep. I'll find something catchy and completely shift gears there.
Thank you, Justin.
Justin, thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you very much.
One thing I want to throw in there real quick after this amazing section from Bruce.
Smash that like button.
Can we see some likes, please? Come on.
I just want to quickly answer Arthur Fiddler. he's saying he's getting ads based on him. So that yes, there is obviously advertising profiling going on all the time. That you are going to likely see ads that are based on your interests. So that's another important thing to keep in mind, that a lot of the ads that show up will be based on your interests as well.
I don't know about that, because I get stuff in there that I have no clue why I'm getting that ad.
That happens too, but you do also have to remember that in this day and age, people are getting better at kind of blocking that data sharing. So a lot of the companies now, they're not getting as good idea of what it is that you're interested in. So with the various blockers and stuff and security precautions that people put in place, they may not necessarily know. They may not have a good profile on you of stuff to show you.
Nice try, GT. We know exactly what kind of websites you visit.
Yeah. I do want to also mention, besides monetization, there are a few other things on YouTube that you get access to. Once you get to that 1,000 subscriber threshold or move beyond that, and one of them is, they call it the community tab. It sort of lets you post updates and link to things, put some text and links in there. It's not a video, but you can link to videos. So if Bruce has a video and I want to share that with everybody on my channel, I could do a little community post there. The other thing that they have is you have, oh gosh, it just went right out of my head.
It's the new one that they just came out with.
Membership. Membership. So besides monetization, where you could get the super chats and the super stickers and stuff, they created their own type of Patreon type thing where it's membership, where people will pay a certain amount to become your member, and then they get access to certain videos or topics or playlists and things that you may not have otherwise had set up.
So that I was of the understanding that it took a little bit longer to get the membership than just 1,000, 4,000. Is that correct?
Looking at the quick Google search that I just did 5 seconds ago, it says that you need. That's the other one. I was searching for merchandise. There are two things. Merchandise requires 10,000 subscribers or more, but for the membership, it just says 1,000. So
okay. Yep.
I don't know if there are different things that change. It says like your channel can't be for kids and all this stuff. So I'm sure there are caveats to a lot of these things, especially if you just hit 1,000 and then like next week you lose a subscriber, it's gonna affect you negatively.
Okay, there's one other thing I want to mention too, because it just came out, and this goes with the monetization thing. Is I know that Yak is actually eligible now for super thanks. I don't know if you've heard of these yet. No. It's something new that YouTube has just put out. Basically, it's like a super chat, except you can get a super thank without being live. So in other words, when this video goes to our archive where people can actually watch it later on, they can actually give us a super thanks. And it's the same as like a super chat. So it's like a monetary donation, just the same way.
Yeah, it's in beta right now. I don't think it's for everybody, but I got a notification that said it's going out to select creators.
Well, I got and it said I can activate it, so it's activated on our channel. So
nice.
Oh, cool.
So people should be thanking us for our tech tips.
Yeah.
So we're going to we'll sort of, I think, finish this section off, and probably the show for that matter, looking at the time. But we've still got a few more things to cover. We will be probably covering things like live streaming software for people who want to do live streaming. We will also be covering things like how much money can you potentially make, that sort of thing. How much money do some YouTubers make, and obviously things like dealing with trolls and those sorts of things, because they're all very that's a very important thing. You need to get sort of good at coping with trolls and abusive comments and stuff like that. So
turn off the comments and delete them.
Learn how to battery. Okay.
Trolls are fun.
That's enough of my face.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Bruce. That's a great third chapter in our YouTube saga. And if anybody has any questions about our YouTube channel, tips, or anything like that from either this episode or previous ones, well, you could actually hop onto our Discord and you could ask us there, or you could just let us know in the chat during one of these these podcasts, and we'll try and get back to you. So very cool. All right, so do we want to do our game tonight? We only have one, so maybe
We
we'll
only
skip
have
it.
one,
Sure.
so we
Let's
could
go with
just
it.
Yeah,
squeeze
may
it
as
in
well.
there.
All right, so we have our Eep Quack game, and unlike some other hosts, I will actually describe what the heck is the whole thing in case you're new. I mean, come on, you should know this by now. But essentially, we're going to eep if you have done something, or quack if you have not done something.
You
So
just explained it.
in the chat, well, I said, unlike other people who don't explain it, I'm going to explain it.
I do explain it.
Anyway, you be sure in the chat to give us a eep or quack if you are
Whoa, that
in
was a good
disagreement
quack, dude.
or not disagreement. Well, thank you very much. I've been practicing.
Quack.
He gets
So
in front of
we
a mirror
have
and
our-
practices.
We have our submission from Bruce. Would you like to read that?
I will. So this isn't so much a sort of have you done. It's more of a do you wish. So do you wish Apple would bring back the musical intros after an OS install is done?
Eep.
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 Eep. I think they were fun. They were. I mean, obviously, if you installed it 30 times in a row, you'd want to put a hole in your brain. But
I would like some variety, though. Like, you install Mojave, you get some very nice 1-minute dubstep intro. You put Catalina on, you get classical music. That's a little bit of variety. That'd be nice. But,
yeah, I made my personal mission in my youth to actually find out what songs Apple sampled or took clips from or used the instrumental versions of, and I would buy them on iTunes. So I have a folder somewhere that's just like those little songs.
So far, only one quack.
check that out. This deserves some explanation.
What? I mean, some people don't like the music. That's fine.
That's just ridiculous. Oh, he must be one of those leopard people.
Oh. No, he must hate leopard.
What was the last one with an intro? Was it Leopard?
I think it was leopard.
Yeah.
Because I don't think
Leopard
Snow
was
Leopard had one. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Unless it didn't, I don't
yeah.
remember.
No, I think Snow Leopard just came in with a little 3D rotating cube, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was the setup system, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, the
probably.
previous ones had it too. After the video played, the screen
Yeah, it goes to the
kinda-
cube.
Okay, which
Yeah.
cube? Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, Snow Leopard did have one. Yes, but it's very similar to Leopard. It's very
Okay.
similar. That's right. I had to Google it real quick, but I don't think Lion had one. I think that is.
And
yeah, I
as much
think-
as we would love to show it, we can't.
No, we can't. But you could, if you do a YouTube search, I think the Snow Leopard one is actually the same, or very, very much close to being the same. But there is no one for Snow Leopard. They stopped doing it for that. I mean, I'm sorry, Lion. But nobody likes Lion anyway.
No.
Yeah.
It's kind of like leopard.
Yeah, we're all in agreement there.
That's Mac Yak agrees. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's why we can't use lion on that segment. Like, yeah, it sucks.
Oh.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
agree.
Oh, there
All right.
we go. That's his reasoning. He usually installs it after a previous install has failed, so no need to put it to music.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh boy! All right, so
If you want to see more Eep Quack, by the way, leave your submissions on Discord throughout the week so we can collect some for you.
yeah. And Trina, thank you for your submission. I'm going to put it in our notes here. But everybody else, please do it in Discord. Otherwise, we lose the chat history of YouTube sometimes. So we don't want to have that being lost. But all right, anything else from you guys? Any cool, exciting plans for the weekend ahead, or anything that anyone's finishing up?
I'm going to
Soldering
fill up
certain
the
things?
bird feeder and set up a camera.
There you go.
I mentioned before that I will be completing the assembly of my brand new Macintosh Classic, so I invite everyone to come and join me for that.
I will be watching it. That
Thank
looked
you,
interesting.
Thank you.
And that gets his view. See, that gets his view hours up too, because every person that's in there.
I missed it gives you a little summary at the end of the live stream of how many hours you get from a view, and I missed it coming up. It came up, and then I accidentally quit out of the page, and you can't get it back.
I always take screenshots of those because I think I've only missed one out of whenever I started live stream, but I have like all of those
But
saved.
you know, when you do a live stream and it comes back and tells you how many viewing hours you've had, and it might come up and it'll say like 6 days worth of viewing hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's amazing.
After my last live stream, I think I had 5 minutes of view hours. So not bad. Not bad.
You're getting there, Jay.
Just make sure you install the ROM in the correct orientation, Bruce. That's all I'm going to say.
I will. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something really interesting this time. I'm going to put in a 40-pin socket instead of a 42-pin socket.
Genius!
So that you cannot actually put it in the wrong holes.
Just make sure you solder it into the correct hole.
Of course.
Yes. I'll try and get that right. I'll try.
Excellent.
So you said you are streaming this later tonight? Is what you
No, I said I am streaming this. Well, I'll be streaming it on my Sunday, which will be Saturday night for people in the US. So that's when I'll be doing it. But I will be posting probably a thumbnail link for it tomorrow. My Saturday, US Friday. So. Yep.
Excellent.
You notice how he got out of his weekend thing because he's like, "Oh, that's tonight." That's what I think Jay was trying to get to that. He was like, "Hey, isn't your weekend starting tonight?"
It is. I used to be a lot better at tricking Bruce into doing things. But I need some. I need some. New material.
That was back in the days when I wasn't as busy as I am now.
Yeah.
So, Greg or Jay, you have anything coming up this weekend besides setting up webcams?
Not really. I'm off the next 2 days from work, so I'm going to try to go look at a Mac Pro that's at this shop that hasn't been sold yet. So I'm going to see if
these poor people you're badgering.
No. This is a person that doesn't know what he has because it's in a pawn shop and he has no clue. So yeah, I'm going to try.
How many Mac Pros do you have?
One.
Okay. All right.
I see a will you take $50 coming up?
Well, he's got it listed for $350, so I'm gonna talk him down a little bit from that, depending on what's in it. Because if I open it up and it's a 1,1, I'm gonna be like, nope.
Yeah. What would your plans be for this one?
It's gonna be my backup. Probably be a like a file server only for it or something.
Cool.
Or
keep us updated.
Backup.
You would bring a Mac Pro in your house to be a server. Well, you have a perfectly fine Xserve being a...
No, I do not have an Xserve. I don't have any Xserves. I got rid of all my Xserves.
When you moved.
Oh, man.
When I moved.
What the hell?
I still have my Xserve RAID, but I don't have the Xserves.
It's about
I'll
time
take the RAID off your hands.
Huh?
I'll take the RAID off your hands.
But
And of
you
course
got to remember, the Mac Pro is a lot quieter than an Xserve.
A little bit.
We do have to remember, of course, that we now have another Mac Yakker that is regularly live streaming. So when are we seeing the next one, Jay?
Regularly. You cannot turn those tricks around on me, sir. I probably next year.
He's like, your Jedi mind
Whenever
tricks
I have
don't work.
something that is, in my opinion, worth live streaming, I'll turn the camera on. But now
You're gonna fix that board I sent you?
Not with the firmware chip missing.
So,
I was actually going to
means-
try.
Steve, so to get Jay to stream, that means we just need to start sending him more stuff.
Yeah, just send him a bunch of crap.
Steve sent me this board. I don't know if it's in focus, but I'm going
I can see where the firmware is supposed to be.
Is that board is cracked? Is that board cracked?
Oh, yeah.
It is cracked, and I was going to try to fix it, but what Steve is holding in his hand that lives right there is the firmware chip, and without it, this is just a coaster. Even once it's fixed. So
yeah, I that was a recycler special that I got for free, and I was like, oh, maybe I could use the display for this. It went in a pile, and I didn't really pay attention to it. So I'm cleaning up, and I'm like, oh, I have a 2012 MacBook Pro. This is great. There's a crack.
didn't tell me the crack part at first. He's on iMessage like, oh, I have this board. Is it 2.9 gigahertz? Those are i7s. Those are awesome. Yeah, it's a 2.9. Oh, wait.
Steve, I actually have a 12-inch i7 2012 if you ever want it.
12-inch i7?
No, 13. Sorry, 13.
Oh.
13.
Well, we'll see. Maybe it'll kick mine's butt. But anyway, we've rambled on for too long. Dave is patiently waiting for us to end it up here. So please remember to join us on Discord. The link is right there. And if one of you guys want to put it in the chat as well, if you are not already a member of our Discord group, please join us there. You could interact with us, give us your submissions for What Were They Smoking and Eep Quack and all that fun stuff. And don't forget, we are on The website, our website is macyak.com, so mac-yak.com. We have some articles on there, and of course our YouTube has our tech tips and all that fun stuff. So we are trying to post those shorter videos when we can, and those supplement these longer streams. But that's about it. Anybody else have anything to say before we sign off?
No, that's about it.
Right. Oh, I forgot. I am releasing a video, hopefully this weekend, about my Ras Scuzzy adventures, which, my goodness, all the footage together on my Final Cut Pro timeline is over 4 hours. So we'll see how this goes.
It's a lot of view hours.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, and I started a second channel where I just posted a real-time install of System 7. So we'll see what happens with that.
I think I watched maybe about 2 minutes total of that.
That's probably 2 minutes more than a lot of other people. But it's Mac 84 Disk 2, and the 2 is stylized like an Apple II. I'll put it in the chat. But thank you very much, guys, for hanging out today, and we'll see you on the next edition of Mac Yak. Bye.
Bye.
Someone press the button.